After years of helping online businesses make more money by advising them on their taxes and finances, I've now made it my mission to reach as many profitable online businesses as possible to help them save on their taxes and make more money. On my quest, I bring you proven and real profitable online business owners, and we dig into how they do it. Hello again, thanks for being here. This is The Few, the Proud, the Profitable. This is where we talk exclusively to 6- and 7-figure online business owners. We know there are a lot of people in this space who exaggerate, who fabricate their success. So what we do here is we only talk to people who are actually making real money online. We're talking to one of those today, Jordan Ellington. Thanks for being here, man.
Hello. My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right, so what we do here, spend about 15 minutes. Sometimes that runs 30, 45, depending on how we're rolling.
Okay.
Go through 5 questions or so.
Cool.
So first one is, in a couple sentences, just tell us who you are, what you do.
Okay. I am Jordan, the Spanish dude is what I'm known as worldwide. And I teach Spanish online. I make videos on YouTube for free.
Yeah.
And then I sell premium courses on my website. So I don't do tutoring or one-on-one or anything like that. I make videos. All my courses are videos too. So I basically just make Spanish videos.
Yeah, and you've got one of the biggest, if not the biggest at this point, channel, don't you?
I mean, there are definitely bigger people than me still. There are people that have been around for 7, 8, 10 years. But yeah, I'm part of this crew of 5 to 6 that it seems like are the main go-to guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And your approach is cool too because, and we can get into this, but the way that you approach the language to me is very different than most teachers look at it.
Right.
I don't know if you still go by Gringo Espanol or not. But
yeah, that's how I started. I started as Gringo Espanol, and Gringo is a word that people use. It's actually used different. If you ask different people, you get different definitions of it. But to me, it's basically anyone who's not a native Spanish speaker. Yeah. Usually, the whiter they are, the more Gringo they'll be called. But Black people, German people, some people think it's just an American thing, but it's not. It's really just anyone who doesn't speak native Spanish, no matter what country you're from or what color your skin is. And that's how I use it for sure.
Okay.
And it's just kind of a way to say, like I'm up here teaching Spanish. So obviously I think I'm good enough to teach Spanish, not just at Spanish, but in life. But I also don't take myself very seriously. Yeah. Unfortunately, I'm not called the Gringo Espanol anymore.
Okay.
Because there was just, Gringo, anytime you even say a skin color or anything like that, that's kind of like a red flag for Facebook and stuff like that. So it was
people take it, even if they shouldn't. I guess some people do take it as a pejorative. So
they do. If I call you a jerk, you could take that, or whatever. If we're buddies and I call you something worse than that, you can take that as a sweet word I call you, or you can get offended. It's your choice.
Yeah.
Gringo's probably closer to the line than jerk. But it really is just how you take it. Whatever. I'm not called Gringo Espanol anymore. Right. I throw that word around a little bit here and there because it's still fun. And you know what? Another reason why I felt good to name myself that is just over the years when I'm talking to Spanish speakers, basically, when I refer to myself as a Gringo jokingly, they laugh, they giggle, they like it. It adds to the conversation. It adds to the relationship. And it's fun.
Yeah, a little self-deprecating.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, second question is, what's the best thing about having a profitable online business for you?
Not working for the man.
Yeah.
Definitely. I hate the man. Yeah. That's all I ever wanted in life, basically, was just to, I was willing to work hard. I think I work more than most of my friends do when you go by the hour.
Sure.
But when you can, let's say I work 50% more hours than somebody else. And that sucks to work 50% hours more than somebody else at the beginning. Sometimes, when you have to hustle and make it and grow a business. I still do it on my terms. Right. When I want to, like, one of my big complaints about school is that, like, oh, you have to wake up at a certain hour and then go 6 hours in a row, which is the exact opposite of what I do when I have control of my time, when I want to get stuff done.
Yeah.
It's wake up at a certain hour and then go 6 hours straight. That's exactly the opposite of what I do.
Yeah. Well, that's the way it was when I was in corporate America. That's what would drive me nuts, because beyond the fact that you just have this dead time, you're expected to be there even when you're not doing anything, you're not actually productive. The other thing was that it would be at times when I wasn't productive. You've got to show up at 7, 8 o'clock, even if that's not when you when you'd naturally be rolling. And
Right.
for me here at the office, I don't show up until 10 a.m. pretty much any day, but it's not unusual for us to be working late into the night. Sometimes you get
Totally.
a second wind around midnight and
I
you
have
can
it in my
start
head that
rolling.
you're kind of a night person, and that if I message you at 11 o'clock at night, there's
Oh,
a
I'm
decent
there. Yeah,
chance you'll reply. Yeah.
yeah, but anytime if you 9 a.m., there's zero chance.
Right.
So that's one of the things that's cool with online. A lot of people talk about the freedom aspect, and not only where your physical location is and how being in control of your own destiny, but just that it's not this set schedule like you're saying.
Yeah. It's a more efficient use of your time, bottom line.
It
It's just
is.
like you were talking about, like, you don't have downtime unless it's on you if you have downtime.
Yeah.
And yeah, you just work when you have the most energy. I take naps quite often.
Yeah.
So the 6 hours in a row thing is a huge problem for me. It's just, I know when I do a lot of writing scripts is what I do for my videos. And I know my brain is just, I might think I'm doing a good job on the fourth or fifth hour, but when I do take a nap and come back, I'm like, ooh, I was trying to push it past that 3 hour mark of
Past when
good, strong brain work,
you're
and it wasn't as good as I
optimal.
thought it was. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't do, aside from this, and this to me is different because it's just having a conversation. But when we would do videos and it's just me talking, I would notice that, and they weren't long videos, they'd be 5 minutes, 10 minutes on the long end once they're edited down.
Mhm.
I was good for about two a day.
Yeah.
And same thing, when if we would try to push it where we're trying to get a lot of content, by the
Yep.
time the third video was there, I could get through it. I'd be, um, it wouldn't be like the
You'd get it done.
message.
You'd get it
Yeah,
done.
yeah, I would still say the same things, but the energy, the effectiveness, all that just tanked like nobody's
Totally.
business.
Totally. I mean, they always say that we, like, they say we can do stuff for 45 minutes at a time. And I think what they mean when they say that is, like, really, really sharply focused.
Yeah,
And if you're into something, because it's a new business, it's a new idea, like a new girl, you can go 24 hours, 3 days in a row, whatever. But like normal, every day, day in and day out, like
yeah,
45 minutes focus. And if it's not 45 for you, it's 55 or an hour and 15 or whatever.
sure.
But like, that's what they mean. It's 45 at a time, but there's also this like cumulative limit of before you sleep. And sleeping can reset it, though, to a point at least. You don't have to
Yeah,
wait for
that
the
makes sense
day.
with the naps, stepping
Yeah,
away, doing something to give yourself
totally.
rest.
It's
Yeah,
something I've always felt. I've always done naps ever since my dad makes fun of me because I had this business that I did out of his garage, and I had this guy working for me in his garage, and he'd come home from work around like 4, and he would always say, like, "Where's Jordan?" And the guy would always say, "It's nap time." I'd be up there because I knew I had to work that afternoon or that evening, and I wasn't going to do good work if I wasn't napped. So it's like I've always believed in nap, but now the more I read, the more it seems like it really is physiologically what's going on in our
mhm,
bodies is that you just have a certain amount of focus.
yeah, that makes
Yeah.
total sense.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Question number 3. One thing we hear from a lot of online business owners, and this is what a lot of our practice ends up revolving around, is managing cash flow. A lot of people struggle with that, and the way the pros and the cons of cash flow for online businesses is different than you'd have for traditional ones. So we always ask, how have you had issues with that, and how have you managed that successfully?
Right. I'm sensitive to it because I had a physical business before where I had inventory and stuff like that, and that
Right.
was quite tricky. But after you have the business rolling, it's just, I say it at the beginning of an information business, I'd say it has more to do with your personal expenses.
Yeah.
Basically, because your personal expenses, you can only go certain once you have the business rolling. Let's just say, because until you have the business rolling, you don't have revenue coming in. It doesn't matter. But yeah, I'd say if you're selling information, it really shouldn't be much of a problem unless there's some angle I'm missing, unless you're going for like huge growth or,
Yeah.
investors and things like that. Just normal organic growth. I think the key is to like get a few months for sure saved up and don't go buy fancy cars and stuff like that. I think that's really kind of
Right.
the only trick to it. And like, you can buy stuff. Like, I love my electronics and I'm do videos, so I'm always looking for an excuse to buy a new piece of equipment.
Yeah.
But like, generally speaking, I don't do jewelry, I don't do furniture, I don't do
Yeah.
anything, fancy like that. And yeah.
Yeah. I think it comes down to budgeting for a lot of people because again, it depends on which niche you're in. If
Hmm.
you're in e-commerce, you've got a whole nother thing to deal with. But if you're
Yeah.
in the information side, even product launches are a good example, because when you launch a product, you're going to have some expense of getting that all done. So you've got to eat that on the front end. But then if it goes well, you're going to have this huge chunk of money that comes in.
Totally. Totally. And
you could
emails
allow
too. It's like,
yourself.
that's the thing is emails too. Like you can just send out an email, and if you Adam is very on me about,
Yeah,
I used to send out all these emails with just messages. It would go to a new video, but he just said, you don't even have to do a discount or anything like that. Just on the PS, every single email,
sure.
the offer of the week is some course I already have, not at a discount. It's just the spotlighted deal of the
Yeah,
week. And I see an uptick every time I send an email even. So it's
yeah.
like, those are like little launches basically, you know?
Yeah, but if you get too used to that, obviously, like you're saying, you have stability, but people will get really used to these huge spikes from a launch.
Mm,
And, I don't know what the frequency is because it varies based on your industry and your business. Let's say that you could successfully do one of those a quarter, maybe. Well,
right.
that first month, they spend like that's what they're going to have for the next
Right.
2 months, that they're not going to have that
Yeah.
again.
And realistically speaking, a lot like realistic, I don't, and I'm just me, like I'm just me, and I have a relationship with my email list or my people, my gringos.
Sure.
And it is the way it is because I look at it this way. So this isn't the right way or the wrong way, but this is my way. It's like, yeah, even 4 launches a year would be like, that's every 3 months. You're nailing them with these discounts and stuff like that. Yeah, for me, the less launchy things are, the better.
Yeah.
And I've unsubscribed to all those emails, so I'm not aware if people are still like big into launches anymore. Are launches still a big thing?
It depends. Yeah, some people do
Yeah.
have pretty.
I mean, launches are awesome. I love launches. I love looking for an excuse for a launch.
I mean, it depends on your model because some people are going more for a membership and subscription based thing, but
Right.
usually for most things, there's still some sort of point of inception,
For sure. For
even for
sure.
membership, and then you do have if you've got an
Right.
active engaged list,
Totally.
you have this nice little.
I should probably do more launches. What I like is I like people, the regular numbers that watch my YouTube video every day, a certain percentage of them come and buy a course based off my regular thing.
Right.
Like that's really what that adds up. It adds up. It's 365 days a year, So it's like if you get that going, it doesn't have anything to do with discount. It doesn't have to do with you doing anything. So launches actually, I would say are really cool for the revenue, but I feel like most people would agree with this. They suck for the time invested, So if you're investing no time on getting so I like doing, this is kind of like, I read I like to do a video where it could always lead to a practice worksheet. So like they always come, fill out a thing for a practice worksheet, get on my list, and then I get them that way through. So just this regular repetitive thing.
Yeah.
So I was like, I don't have launches. Launches are a great thing. I look for an excuse to do launches. Don't get me wrong, but they take your time and energy.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's different for everybody, but yeah, it's just I think what you're saying though, especially for online businesses, because some people get huge. Some people have massive, even on just if they've got information and info product based businesses.
For sure.
Some of them are still huge, so they've got a lot of overhead. The majority of people still do keep it pretty lean. So a lot of it goes to what your personal spending is and what those habits are.
Yeah, it's like I really think, you're absolutely right. So I wasn't thinking about that aspect. So I just haven't done that. So but I've been inclined to sometimes and haven't. If you have a huge team working for you, that's obviously a different situation.
Yeah.
But I feel like that should only be done when it needed to be.
Yeah, well, like any business expense, any expenditure, there needs to be a utility that is, if not significantly, but you have to have a good margin beyond what it's costing you.
Right. I mean, and it's tricky though, because even though I've been doing this for a while, it's like the other night we were talking and I was talking about I needed somebody local to help me. And then once you actually asked me several questions and kept at it. And you're like, you really don't need somebody local. And when you don't need somebody local, it opens your options up and the pay goes down usually, what we have to pay. So the costs. So it's tricky. So like, even then I've kept it small, obviously, but like, I don't have anyone working for me like on a permanent basis. I have video editor somewhere else. But like, even then I was tricking myself that like, so that's the thing with the expenses is your mind tricks you. I deserve the car. I need the car. I deserve the camera. I need the camera. I'll make so much more money if I buy this car or this camera or whatever it is, or this employee,
Yeah, and then it always there's a weird tipping point too between keeping it minimal, and as you want to scale, then starting to value your time more,
Absolutely.
and being able to either turn stuff down or offload stuff.
Totally. Totally.
It's not a perfect example because this goes more to the revenue side, but there's some interview probably a couple years, maybe it's more recent than that. I think it was like a year ago. It was with the Black Keys, and they were talking. I think they're either have started or going to start touring again.
Okay.
And they were talking about that for years they were touring some insane amount of nights a year. It's like 300 days a year they were on the road, and they were doing the gigs for $50 or something. So then when they actually started making money, it was really hard for them to turn down any work and scale it down because they were so used to having so little for so long.
Totally.
It's kind of the same thing. Early in the business, you want to keep things so incredibly minimal because you have nothing but time, and everything hurts more. But then the bigger
totally. The situation,
put a premium on your time.
For sure. I agree with you 100%. And it comes down to the value of your time. And that's why I've always argued with like kind of some people at the beginning when you don't even have any revenue yet, or you're just really bootstrapped, where people are like, you shouldn't do anything that is below your 5%. And I'm like, okay, that only works when you have no more time. Like when you have extra time, your time, that's nice to say your time. The value of your time is nothing when you have more time.
Right. Well, and it's also funny too in the online space because, and everyone just exaggerates what they do, but they say, I charge $1,000 an hour. That only works if people are actually paying you for it.
For sure.
I can say I charge $1 million an hour, but that's only really your hourly rate. That's only really the value of your time. Like you're saying, at the point when that's what you have some proof that that's what your time is worth.
For sure. But your other point on the other side was right too. I have to go back to that because that's kind of where I'm at right now it's probably a little bit harder because hustle gets you through the first part. And then once your time is full, now I'm at the time I was like, okay, I want to get so much more done, but there's obviously I can't do any more, and I want to do less right now.
Point, like in the early stages is exactly where you need to be because otherwise your personal spending goes nuts. You hire people when you don't have the money for it and you've got enough time that you should be doing it. And then it's just, there's no perfect metric for when it hits, but at a certain point it's like, okay, well now my time is demonstrably worth X amount per hour and I need to offload this $15 an hour work to somebody else.
Totally. And that's for me, that's proven to be the harder step for different personality characteristics I have and just how life works. I think hiring is a hard thing to do in general.
Oh, absolutely. Well, relinquishing control is hard, especially when you're a perfectionist. If you really love what you're doing, I remember when I first hired my assistant years back, it was me not answering the phone and not answering every email. There's a lot of trepidation that comes with that.
Wait, so you weren't doing it and that's why you hired her?
No, I was, but that's a lot.
Oh, you were trepidatious about not doing it.
Oh, not doing it anymore. And so, even the smallest things.
Totally. Yeah.
Tough to give up.
Luckily, I agree. I'm totally in that boat. Luckily, I do have the confidence that when I'm in something, I'm in it 100%. But the second I let go a little bit, I'm usually very easy to get away with it. Now, that's very bad because I am not trepidatious about leaving somebody to do my I am trepidatious about leaving somebody to do my emails, but I'm not trepidatious about leaving my emails just sit there and not getting replied to. At first, I'd be like loyal to it. So that's why I need to hire people, obviously. Right. But yeah, once I let my foot off the gas a little bit of something, I can easily compartmentalize it and just let somebody else take it. 90% is good enough, I think is what you have to accept,
Sure.
And yeah.
Well, yeah, and that's what it's funny when you talk to people who the business kind of stalls and they're just in the same place even when they have staff, and it's partially true, but it's also a little bit of a cliche. Like, well, no one cares about your business as much as you do, and no one's going to do it like you do, and that's true. But it's like you said, you have to accept that 90% is good enough. You have to accept that for these tasks that aren't these super, super core things to the business, that them being done competently and well
And I would say
we're not as good as what these things as we think.
I agree. And I think this goes to a bigger problem with these expressions, these old wives' tales and these like wisdom meme type quotes of like, no one cares about the business like you do. It's like, it's true in a certain context, and it's the exact opposite of true in another context. It's like big picture for sure. No one's going to care about revenue growth and keeping the cost down and all that stuff. But they are going to, if somebody is hired to check your emails, guaranteed they're going to reply to more emails than I am, So it's like, for sure, like that's the point, So it's like every expression, like I actually own a website. I won't say the URL right now, but like I own a website. It's not up. It's just kind of for future. Because right now, basically I have these ideas that aren't related to Spanish, and I put them on I put them aside because I'm really focused on the Spanish stuff right now. Sure. I don't want to like divert my attention because I really do believe the stuff I've said in this video so far about the focus and about once I divert my attention from something, it's very easy to completely lose my attention on that thing. So I want to stick with Spanish for a while longer, but it's like, it's this theme I have. It would just be a simple website basically debunking not every single, but almost every single old wives' tale or expressions, like the one that really gets me. Everyone says it, and they say it seriously. Like when you're talking about the history of the world, they're like, oh, history is written by the winners. Or sometimes they say history is written by the winners. But that's like the most ridiculous thing. You don't need to be a historian to figure out that literally every person in this world writes the history of every event that occurs or they're exposed to in this world. If we just keep it to the countries in the events, every country writes their own version of the history. Like, I get why you would see it, but only to mock yourself as somebody who says stuff like that.
And it might have been more true back in like Roman times where we have, you've got one surviving manuscript. So
sure, but I don't know if that's actually how things went. Like when and maybe it's true, did they actually kill everybody to the last man, or were there women and children? So like people say that. I would like to research the history of this expression. I'd say, I'm guessing without having done any research myself, that it came into use years later when they were just talking about like, I'd say basically it's mostly Americans saying it because we view ourselves as the winners of most of the wars, and if we didn't win a war, we typically just don't talk about it that much.
Right.
And so and we only know about our history. So our history is the history. Our history is the only history, and it's written by the only winners in every event. So history is written by the winners. It's just very easy for most Americans to accept. It doesn't have any logic to it at all in modern day times, and I don't think it does in the past either.
Okay.
I feel like that should be used. I feel like that expression should only be used by people to mock how we misinterpret history.
Yeah.
That
makes sense. All right, cool. So
little sidebar there.
No, yeah, I mean that's what this is.
But to me, it's like it's all the same stuff. Like my Spanish videos are all about using logic. Basically, logic in the methods to memorize words, logic and understanding why the words are next to each other in a sentence, things like that.
Yeah.
It's all about just kind of like looking at the circumstances and trying to
like you said in the last video you did with you and the therapist.
My therapist, yeah.
Where which for anyone watching who hasn't seen that the therapist is Jordan in a different outfit.
He's Dr. Dude.
Yeah, Dr. Dude, not Spanish Dude.
Yeah.
But you talked about that there aren't really rules, there's patterns.
Right.
Language, which I think viewing things as rules, it can be this like, not false positive, but it can make things more confusing.
No, false positive, false negative. Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like, this isn't a great example because we're going to go into like it's not realistic, what I'm about to say, but the logic will still be there and get my point across. And maybe it's realistic. And I mess it up sometimes when I say it, but it's like, we're taught rightly that like a red burner is hot.
Yeah. Right.
And conversely, just logic tells us the opposite is also true. They don't necessarily tell us this over and over again, but our logic gets there automatically. If it's not red, it's not hot. No one's going to go stick their hand on a not red burner. But typically we know black burners are safe to touch, red burners are not. The problem is when you take that as a rule, there's probably some really fun, beautiful burner-like thing or burner-looking things that are red out there that we're not going to touch because we have it in our head that round burners, whatever it is, maybe it's a beautiful ceramic burner that is red without being hot. It's painted red. Or more realistically.
Or the other side would be even more.
I would say more realistically, because I've been in kitchens where they have those like high convection stovetops where you take a pan, it's a special pan, and it's a special burner, and it's not hot to the touch. Nothing is hot to the touch. You take the pan, you put it on the burner, and it's hot to cook. You take it off, it's instantly not hot anymore. It has something to do with like the travel of something, I don't remember. And this was old. I saw that like 20 years ago, probably, maybe more. I was 16 when I saw that. So that was in a very professional, high-end kitchen, restaurant, you know. But it doesn't. So bottom line is like, so now some innocent person's going to go put his hand on this thing because it's black. You can put your hand, or more realistically, I'm just going to put the shopping bag down real quick. I do that all the time on my stove. You know, I'll put the shopping bag down on my stove. It's black. It's not hot because I remembered a rule of thumb as a rule.
It's not going to be hot.
Yeah. Right. So it's a stupid example, but it's true. Like if they say like a word is a noun, well, no, it's not a noun. Words are just words. And then they serve a certain role, and they serve the role as a noun in a sentence, but they serve as a verb in another sentence. But it's hard to think about the one that they didn't say, because typically they say run is a verb, you know, and so this is another just very easy example. Typically this doesn't hurt us until the more complicated examples, but like they'll say like run is a verb, you know, run is a verb, and then you get used to it because it's a little bit harder. You have to think a little bit harder to be like, okay, well, I'm going for a run, you know, and whatever. I mean, like words are that's a bad example, but bottom line is they don't even say that they're rules necessarily is the problem. They just present them as rules and we take them as rules. You know, I'm not even saying they're lying or, you know, these are rules when they're not. And what they are is there's specific contexts. You know, like when in a vacuum, when nothing else is occurring, this is a verb.
Right.
You know.
Well, I did a blog post, I don't know, it might have been a year ago or something, and it was talking about, I titled it "Context is Everything." And it gives this quote at the outset that is supposedly by Voltaire. And it's something about, to understand who rules over you, you have to look at those you can't criticize. It's something along those lines. So presented as Voltaire, you start to think about his history, what he stood for.
Explain to me what you mean by that. Give me what do you mean by that? What is that? Give me your synopsis of what that quote means.
Well, I mean, again, it depends on the context.
But what you're getting at right now.
All right, so
I'm not good at like getting the imagery.
He's one of these great thinkers of the Enlightenment. So you think about censorship, you think about all those things, but it actually ends up being a quote from some white supremacist. So then, knowing what the source is and knowing where it actually came from, changes.
Beautiful, totally,
immediately.
Totally.
So that's kind.
I agree. I agree. No,
context determines so many of the things
for sure.
Life and business.
For sure. I mean, it was the beginning of I think it was that 7 Habits of a Highly Effective People. Did you read that book? It's like a classic.
I've heard about it. I've never actually read
Basically, it's the first time I heard about a paradigm shift. There's a woman on a subway. She's letting her kids run wild. They're getting people's newspapers, just harassing everybody on the subway. This guy goes up to her. It's like, how could you let your kids run around like this? It's obviously a longer story with more buildup. Sure. But then she's like, oh, I'm sorry. Their father just died today. I didn't notice.
Right.
You know, and you're like, okay, cool. I didn't get the context. No, and it's interesting context. The more I look at the language, the more I see it's applicable to everything in life, which kind of makes sense. I know a carpenter always sees a nail, and every science teacher says everything is science. And but we use language to communicate about, to think and communicate about all those things. So I think it's fair to say that language is connected to everything almost in that way, at least. But
well, you don't know how much of it goes to culture versus how much of it goes to language, but just the way that people in different areas and countries, I think since language is how it at least partially determines how we form thought.
Totally.
And
what we think.
Yeah, exactly. That's how we determine is how we're forming sense as thought. Yeah. So when languages can be the way they're structured can be so different. Like it would very easily affect.
I would say the hardest part about learning a language, when you haven't learned a language before, so it's the first foreign language, is just separating what is the language and what is reality, because they're so intertwined when you only speak one, but when you speak two, even just the fact that forward in time is to the right, basically, on a timeline, and back in time is to the left is a fact of our society. It's of our culture. Hebrew goes right to left. I don't know what they do for timelines, but letters go left to right in our country, in our language. Hebrew goes right to left. So it's just like everything is that right there is so affects so much of our thought. I assume just the right left difference.
Yeah.
But yeah, language. It's very hard to separate because you see two languages handle reality two different ways.
Mm-hmm.
You and I get along. You and I get along. We're friends. But in Spanish, in that context, we would say you and I carry each other.
Yeah.
But that sounds weird. But in English, we kind of say that, right? Like, oh, they carry on great. We kind of say that,
Yeah.
So it's like it's the same idea, and we're just expressing it all these different ways. But if we express it the same way, but a little different, it sounds weird. If we express it different, it sounds weird. So it's like it's really the reality is the same every time. You and I have this relationship. We like each other, things like that. In English, we say we get along. Whatever that means. In Spanish, we say we carry each other.
Yeah.
Well, we carry each other well is what we'd say.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
And if I want to say, if this is interesting, see, these are things that really got my attention in language to make me realize what I was talking about, like the separation of language and reality is like, if I want to say like, I like you, like just as a friend, in Spanish, like you just wouldn't say that the same way. So in Spanish, the best way to say that is like, you fall on me well.
Interesting.
You fall on me well. You fall on me well. Me caes bien. And then when we get along, we say nos llevamos bien. Yeah, and that's so it's kind of weird. It's like you fall on me when I like on you, and then we carry each other when we like each other. It's kind of interesting,
No, that's cool. All right, cool. So question number 4. A couple of minutes. Give me a tip that every online business owner should know.
A tip that every online business owner should know. Oh, okay. Yeah. I feel like I have a good one for this. I don't know if this actually happened all in one day, all in like one sitting, but I feel like it all did, but no matter what had happened, 2 separate stories, maybe I'm combining it. But I think it really did happen. One morning I was at some conference, like a Ryan Dice digital marketer thing.
Yeah.
It might have actually been him. It might not have been. And like the first speaker came on. And basically you're at these things because they're running online businesses almost exclusively, and they have something that you want, obviously. So like it's success in an online business. You don't want their money, you don't want their business, but you want what they have. And a lot of times we look at them, we want the characteristics they have, the habits they have, the knowledge they have, things like that, who they are as humans, And so like all of them kind of fit that bill generically before you kind of like or dislike somebody. But one of them came up, and they're like, no matter what, the secrets of my success, or one of the secrets to my success is, every single morning I wake up and immediately and we've all heard all this stuff before, okay? But it was just funny that it all happened the same day. Immediately I do everything I have to do, everything I don't like to do, just get it all done. So the rest of the day is just mine. I own my day. If I work on a project, it's great. If I go golfing, it's great. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'm going to wake up and get everything done. Next guy comes up and he's like, the secret to my success, one of the secrets to my success is the second I wake up until 2:00 in the afternoon, that's my time. That's my time. I am my priority, my personal time. And then at 2:00, I do all my stuff and I get it done. And I like working on the You're like, what do I do? So it's like bottom line. And it makes me think of an article I read years ago that really made an impression on me. I don't know how long it's been. I'm not a parent. I don't have any kids. But it like really made an impression on me where I like a lot of empathy for parents. But I think that it was just about parenting, and that we all in entrepreneurship is kind of the same way in this way. And I've heard of businesses compared to kids. So we'll just go with it. But bottom line is there was a woman with her kid at a playground. She was sitting on a bench. He was on the monkey bars or whatever. And she like noticed that he was having trouble climbing up the stairs, I think it was, or the ladder or whatever.
Yeah.
And she like was thinking about, should I help him? Should I not help him? And as she gets up to go help him, some other lady, the mother of another kid, goes and helps him up the ladder. And so like, she was like, oh, that's cool. Maybe they made eye contact, maybe they didn't. A few minutes later, the other mother comes up to her sitting on the bench and is irate that she had to do all the work for her kid and that And the point of this article was like that mom, and I totally empathize with this with almost every decision we make in life. It's like, she didn't know what the right thing was to do was. It was her kid. She was the mom. She didn't know whether to help or to not help was the best thing. Just like when I'm with my niece, I don't know whether to help her or not help her. I don't know what the best thing is. But the point is that no matter what, 50% of the world basically was going to think she was a crappy mom at that moment,
Yeah.
no matter what she did. And probably she would think she's crappy too without anyone seeing it, because if she helped her, she would have thought that she shouldn't have helped her, and she, blah, blah, blah. So it's like, no matter what, there's always going to be two people telling you the opposite things are the true key to success. And no matter what you do, probably you're included, 50% of the world is going to hate you. No, or not hate you, just say you did the stupidest thing you could have done, you know? And just in life, and another thing is, like, when we're making these decisions, you know, that are hard decisions, if they're hard decisions, the harder a decision is, the more even the two sides are. Just like, that's just how it works.
Sure,
and the more two even the sides are, the more guess it is. So you're just guessing anyway.
Yeah.
You know? So it's hard. Life is a series of decisions. Bottom line, that's all it is. It's just decision after decision after decision. Small. Am I going to pee right now? Am I not going to pee right now? Am I going to invest my life in something? You know, whatever it is. And you just have to decide, like, what feels right to you, / not feels like in your heart, because I don't believe in any feelings. I believe that all feelings are actually thoughts, and I think that's backed up by the neurons and stuff like that. But what do you think is the best thing for you to do right now?
Yeah.
With your feelings and your thoughts and whatever that you want to call them, you know?
Well, yeah,
and that's all you can do.
And you can't just listen to, if half of people are going to dislike what you're doing regardless, you can't just listen to people's feedback, especially because depending on how cynical you are and depending on how much you like or dislike other people, all these people are people that you do not particularly respect their opinion.
Right. It's just hard because there's always going to be, it's easier to say that. The key is to know that you're going to be in these situations where you're second guessing yourself and somebody's going to dislike you, and you just go for it. I don't know if there's a way for someone like me, realistically, and there's other people. I'm not Buddha. I'm not Tony Robbins. I'm just me. You know, like, I'm inferior spiritually and in control of my temper and things like that. Just realistically, in the near future, I don't see a world where I seriously, literally don't care about what people think about me.
Yeah.
All I have to do is decide intellectually, like wrestling. You can't be, you got to be a good guy or a bad guy, dude. You can't just go out there and be, oh, I like you. I hate you. You can't just be, everyone will not like you. They won't care about you. You'll be nothing. You know, like, to be something.
Well, you at least got to wait for the story arc to be done before you switch over.
Before you churn. Turns are a different situation. That's a dramatic thing, you know, then you're going one way again. But, yeah, I mean, and I do equate it to wrestling, obviously. I'm a huge wrestling fan. It's the thing that probably shaped me the most in life, I would say, as weird as that sounds to people. And I feel lucky that it sounds as weird as it does to people, because that taught me exactly what we're talking about, actually. Is that all through life, since I was a little kid, like, even the first sign I had that, like, I don't see the world the way the world looks at the world, is, like, adults would always ask me, like, you know, it's fake, or other kids too, you know, and, you know, it's fake. And I'd be like, and I always had, like, it wasn't like I was a genius. I just had a logical response. It's like, yeah, but, like, so are soap operas. And I would name different shows, Desperate Housewives, different things. And they not only would they disagree, they just, like, obviously they thought I was just, like, coming up with some desperate attempt to rationalize why I like wrestling. Like, okay, like, obviously every show is different, but it's the same.
They're scripted.
And emotionally, like, when I walk through the room and somebody's watching General Hospital, okay, I'm like, when I first see it, you know, Luke and Laura, the Quartermains, I know the characters. When I first saw that crap, I was like, how can anybody watch this crap? It was like so fake, the way they acted, and the kissing and the talking and the stabbing in the back and the obviously fake hospital. And then Laura married Colton, I think his name was, and Luke came into a cave, and I was in the living room with my mom that day, okay? And I was like, what's going on? And she told me a little bit of the backstory. I think I might have gotten the names wrong or something like that, but that's basically what happened. Luke had come back. Luke and Laura, this famous couple, Luke had come back after like 5 years being off the show to end looking through a cave at his wife, Felicia, getting married to a new man. And I asked my mom what happened. Next thing I know is I'm a General Hospital fan. So I get it from both sides. It's like, wrestling is so stupid if you don't watch it and you walk through a room. How can you watch this crap?
Yeah.
You know, but that's what I said about General Hospital. And I know I'm all those stupid reality shows. I'm just one segment away from getting addicted.
Yeah. Enough of an interest, and context might be a little bit generous. Yeah.
No, it's context. It is context. It's different flavors of context.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Awesome. All right,
I think you were right. One more thing about that. See, you say stuff and then you get me content. So it's like through the language thing, I came up with these little phrases, but I don't come up with catchphrases or phrases unless they really mean something when you say them. It can't need much explanation either, but they have to be only the catchy ones catch on. And in the end, I came up with like context is reality, because without the context in a sentence, like if I say I just ate, like, what does that mean? Well, in context, you know what I mean? Anyway, it doesn't matter. Bad example. It doesn't matter. The point is that like the opposite has to be true. Then if context is reality, reality is context, and not context, and I'll add with confidence, no context with confidence in what you believe, but no context, that's delusion. The opposite of reality is delusion. The opposite of context is no context. Reality is context. No context is delusion.
Well, there's a whole subreddit. I think it might be called no context. It's either no context or no context sentences.
Mm-hmm.
All it is there'll be some thread to where there's something funny that's said in the context of the article that was posted and all that stuff. It's funny, but then just in isolation, it's the most insane thing you would have ever heard.
Yeah, I believe it. Because even in normal sentences, you can look at some crazy stuff. There's a lot of ambiguity, but if you're looking for the craziest ones, like this example probably was, I can imagine how crazy it gets.
Yeah. All right, cool. Last question.
Yeah.
What's the craziest thing you've seen sold online, or what's the craziest tactic you've seen to sell something online?
I mean, back in the day, I saw like train your dog kits, like train your parrot to talk. I don't know. Like, there's all kinds of crazy stuff. I'll just talk about myself. Before I did the Spanish thing, I did a pedal, which was a cool thing. Did I ever tell you about the pedal?
Yeah.
I never told you about the pedal. My friend, I don't play video games really, but like, I never play video games actually. When I was a kid, I played video games. But my friends were playing this video game probably like 8 to 10 years ago called Rock Band.
Yeah.
And it was like Guitar Hero, but it was the whole band. So it's like karaoke, but with 3 instruments: drums, guitar, bass, and singing. And so like we became a band, the 4 of us. There were 4 of us, and I was the singer. They were the other instruments. But my friend Raymond, who was a college buddy of mine, I was in Florida. I was a real estate agent, my first gig out of college, and real estate had just kind of like sunk. Like the market was bad. So I was doing marketing, doing some websites for people, just like looking for a thing.
Yeah.
And so we play Rock Band, and all the instruments are crappy plastic instruments, but it doesn't really matter except the drum pedal, the pedal on the drums. It did matter because you have this foot stomping on it. So it was defective. It broke very easily. So the stock pedal from Rock Band broke very easily. And my friend Raymond had become an amazing drummer, and he broke his. Raymond is like an engineer type dude. Okay. So my other friend Ian was like, hey, did you hear one day on the phone? Did you hear what Raymond did? His pedal broke. Did you hear what he did? I was like, no. He explained it to me, and I thought it just sounded really cool. I guess he had taken and now I know, he basically just cracked open with a hammer or something and took the sensor out of the stock pedal that like made it electronically trigger the thing when you step on it, and just glued it or taped it or something. He went to the music store and bought a real heavy pedal, a Pearl drum pedal, and just glued it on or taped it on. And so like when the pedal went near it, and I guess it was 2 parts. So he cut out 2 parts from the stock pedal, the 2 pieces that went together. And when it got close enough, and I was like, I went over there, and immediately I was like, I was looking for something to do in life. And I was like, oh my God, we should make this. I just had all the pictures right there. I was like, we'll call it Rock Pedal. I drew up I drew up the verbal contract right there. Like I was like, I'll run the company because I didn't have anything to do. He was working a real job. And I was like, I'll just do the whole thing at the beginning and run the whole thing. And then if it takes off, we'll do 50-50 on the profits. And we came up with a name, and I had like a logo in my head. I went and got it made, and it blew up. It was awesome. It was in like Xbox Magazine and IGN.com.
Really?
Got reviews from all the people. We got like the Editor's Choice Award for like the Christmas edition one year, and
really?
Xbox Magazine. Yeah, it was cool. And that's how I got like I learned how to make websites in real estate, and then I was making real estates to like bide my time until I got this. I had the confidence. So I've been making real estates and had been getting leads from real estate. So I knew how to do forms and stuff like that. I just knew that I could get a shopping cart. It wasn't as easy as it was now, but it wasn't hard.
Yeah.
And Google AdWords was invented when I was doing real estate. So Google AdWords was there. I just started that night with I remember my mentality was I didn't have any money really. So I was like, I had 4 pedals in stock and $100. I was like, I'll put $100 on Google AdWords. And it wasn't a competitive thing.
And less back then too, I imagine.
What's that?
like the price, the PPC, like the price had to have been a lot lower.
And especially like even now it'd be super cheap for that because the keyword was rock band pedal or rock band drum pedal. That was the main.
So long tailed.
Yeah, it's just like that's the thing about niche. It's like so, and for me, a lot of my websites for Spanish comes because I've never tried to be the first listing for Spanish.com or for Spanish or learn Spanish. Because there's so many websites written. So, but I come up all the time for present tense, regular AR conjugation or whatever it is, you know?
Yeah.
You can make a lot of money on the long tail.
Yeah.
I'd say that's where all the money is made, mostly from in markets like Spanish, where there's going to be big boys playing.
Sure. Yeah. That's the only way you could possibly compete. Yeah. All right. Cool. Awesome, man. Thanks again for being on here.
My pleasure.
So,
it's fun chatting.
If anyone wants to reach out to you, if they're looking to work with you, what's the best way for them to get in contact?
Go to my website, SpanishDude.com, and my email's on there. It's support@SpanishDude.com. But yeah, you go to my website, SpanishDude.com, that'll take you everywhere. Okay. Or just Google Spanish Dude and I'll come up. If you type in the Spanish Dude, you'll get me.
Okay, sweet. Okay. All right.
Take care, man.
Thanks for being here on The Few, the Proud, the Profitable, where we only talk to people who actually make money online. For everyone watching, thanks for being here, and we'll see y'all next time.
Hasta luego.